Yo, what up, what up, what up, and welcome back to Pnoid News. Man, listen, look, I keep seeing videos from all these like demographers and academic types standing here trying to like explain to us, right, why it is that, we can't recover the birth rate, right, as a whole. This is, something that is very easy to solve. It's very easy to solve with my new ideology that I invented called communitarianism, right? It's a very basic ass thing, right? It's not really that difficult in any way, right, to solve these type of issues. Like, I sat here and I created a system, right, that makes way more sense as far as like stuff's really concerned, right? And I'm gonna like read to y'all the Communitarian Manifesto. Just as a thing, right? That way, everybody knows exactly what it is that we're talking about. And the reason why I'm going to explain this to you is because there's, very few groups of people, right, on this, planet. Who have a better, like birth rate than people like the fucking Amish, right? This idea, right, is based on what they're doing without the religious practices, right? And the reason why you want to stand here and have this ideology, right, is because you want to be able to have the benefits, right, of, having like the people who are capable of creating new human beings, right? Total fertility rate of 5.3, right, with an average of 7 children per family. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, they added 100,000 more inheritance in just 9 years, reaching 411,000 in 2025. Right? Hang on here. Let me go back to like the original screen. Right? In 2020, they had 350,000. Now they have 411,000. They're not recruiting. They're creating people naturally. And these are white human beings in the Western world, living around Western people. These aren't like the farmers, right, of America, who, by the way, have some of the worst birth rates in the country. There's a reason for it, right? And we're going to get into this, okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, let me stand here and get to the Communitarian Manifesto, right? Hang on. I'm going to be shutting this mic off periodically because of the fact that, like, to be honest with you, I have a fucking cold. I got it on, like, Thursday. And so, like, I'm kind of hacking my lungs up still. And my nose is still getting stuffy and shit. You know how it works. And upper respiratory infection. You know how it operates. All right. So, the Communitarian Manifesto. Your community has rights. I felt like it might be important to fully explain what the vision of a communitarian, of a communitarian nation. What is communitarianism? The basic essence of it. Your community has rights. Communitarianism is the fundamental idea that human beings live naturally in families and communities. These families are formed by fundamental transactional relationships between one generation and the next, and the need for specialization of individuals and families form these communities. We live as humans, not as an endpoint, but as the larger line of human genealogy. We were never meant to be an endpoint, be the endpoint. We were born to a set of parents. We will become parents, and our children will become parents. This line of humans has an ancestry and a future of descendants. Our children will marry other members of the community, creating new humans who will complement the community. This is how humans have lived since we were in trees millions of years ago, and even before that as smaller mammals. In order to make sure that the humans continue to be made in your community, you need a common culture. This culture belongs to every member of your community, is an asset and a resource to be passed down and cherished as much as any financial asset. Your community's cohesiveness is based on its shared culture, which is formed by geography, economics, language, history, and ancestry. I know people are screaming that religion should be included here. Religion should be the glue that holds your culture together with practices that celebrate your cultural heritage. It is not part of your culture. Founding principles. Your community should have the right of refusal to any outsiders moving in. Number 2. Community has the right to refuse accesses to business that wish to purchase land or operate or compete in your community's local economy. Number 3. Any business that was built in your local economy should not be able to move out of your community without compensating the local inhabitants who helped build it. Number 4. Your community should have the right to dictate local customs and rules regarding how its residents behave. Number 5. Your community should manage local food production. Number 6. Community residents should have exclusive employment rights to the businesses in their community. Number 7. Young adults starting off in life should have exclusive rights to real estate in the community. Number 8. Children should be prioritized and treated as a net positive. Number 9. Community protectors, veterans, firefighters, ambulance drivers, etc. should be given homes. Number 10. Communities should have the right to ostracize those who are unhealthy for the community. Number 11. All residents should grow food. Number 12. Property taxes will all be abolished. Number 13. Your house is now a home that will belong to your entire family and not just an individual. Excuse me. Number 14. Investment firms will no longer be able to buy homes in communities. Number 15. A nationwide sales tax be put on to maintain roads, infrastructure, and defense. Basic. This is the idea of a communitarian nation. Nothing more, nothing less. Basic understandings. The prefix com comes from Latin, meaning together or in association. Communicate, community, complement, compute, camaraderie, commune, commingle, combine, and compare are all formed of this basic root plus a suffix. The Cold War propagandized us away from this idea. Though is not communism, this is communitarianism. The basic structure restores healthy transactional relationships between community members. It ensures that those who contribute to a community's health work towards furthering their own culture, solidifying the idea of what a future will look like. Having all members grow food ensures that people's interactions will be transactional. Like if you like blueberries, you will treat the grower well. The exclusive access to employment and real estate ensures that children have a future in your community. The clause about businesses competing ensures investment in businesses in your community. The clause requiring businesses to compensate the community ensures the long-term stability of the business that serve workers, restaurants, or local grocery stores. The ending of property taxes ends the perverse incentive structure for communities to prioritize curb appeal to erase home values and in turn raising tax revenue. This will allow for more freedom of one's use of one's own property. For instance, you can put a swing set out front for your children. Basic. The clause about homes belonging to a family inhibits the idea that your home is an asset that can be mortgaged 3 times to buy a boat. This prevents cheap cash from chasing basic goods in the economy, dropping prices. It also stops the debt cycle and keeps banks out of your community. Summation. These principles allow communities to welcome new people or let people do whatever they want. They will also allow communities to create more stability if they desire it. The system will work better in rural or suburban areas with more land, but it could also work in cities that desperately need stability. Each community will have to choose how it governs itself. These principles can be ignored a la carte or wholesale. However, the federal or state governments will have nothing to do with the basic lives of the people in your community. This is the way that human beings lived worldwide until the 1850s. It's a return to the norm, not a new concept. These ideas have been thoroughly considered and seem to solve many of today's issues. Please leave me a comment and tell me what you think. So, that is the basic idea of communitarianism. Now, let's check out, you know what I'm saying? Actually, we're going to go with the first guy over here first because this is a little bit shorter of a video. This is a guy named Fraser Allen Best. Listen, we'll correct it as we go. Let's watch.
Population growth exploding. And this might be the most significant event in human history. A turning point where humanity's greatest achievements, prosperity, stability, equality, trigger a global crisis unlike anything we've seen before. Experts call it a population tipping point, the start of a population collapse that we don't know how to stop. Some see a silver lining, less strain on the planet, more to go around. Others, economic collapse, environmental disaster. But there's one thing that almost everyone tackling this question agrees on. It's coming, fast. And it could end up pitting our greatest accomplishments as a civilization against us. When I was in high school, there was this video. This Swedish geographer, Hans Rosling.
Now listen, I know that everybody in the comments right now, you know what I'm saying, should probably be roasting this guy, right? With the thin shoulders, giant nose, man bun, right? And in general, sickly demeanor. He looks, I get it. He looks like the end result of Ozempic and like parents in their fucking 50s, right? I fucking 100% understand, right? I get it. But on the same level, you know what I mean? Like, yo, listen, he is among many of people, right, who do not understand what is going on. And we're going to correct this today.
Here we go. Ruslan graphs every country on Earth over the past 200 years, charting their health and wealth. It's the most optimistic lecture you'll ever see. As the years go by, each nation, a point on this graph starts climbing, from sick and poor to healthy and wealthy. There's no catch. Pure positivity. The lecture ends with Ruslan declaring that despite small fluctuations,
everyone can make it to the healthy, wealthy corner.
It's an unbelievably optimistic projection, possibly the best news of all time. And sure enough, in my life, that's been happening. With very few exceptions, the nations of the world have been getting wealthier. But there's something that this video doesn't show. And it has to do with this number, the total fertility rate. For simplicity, we'll call this the birth rate. This number tells us how many children, on average, each woman gives.
I'm explaining this really simple, all right? 2 kids, right, replaces, you know what I'm saying, the original one. That 0.1 is for, you know what I mean, like kids who die. You know what I'm saying? So like a tenth of, you know what I mean, like a child, right? That way, kids who die, stillborns, all that type of stuff, you know what I mean, it's at 0.1. To make sure, you know what I mean, that there's enough people, right, you have to have 2.1. It can't just be fucking 2. That's basic ass shit.
Birth to in a country. If it's above 2.1, the population grows. Below 2.1, it shrinks. When I was a kid, the worry was that we were growing too much, that globally there were too many people. Headlines warned of famine, resource scarcity, water wars. China had a one-child policy. Overpopulation was the focus. And so as we watch countries climb from poor and sick to healthy and wealthy, no one noticed the silent bomb that was hitting each of these countries as they crossed the finish line. After World War II, Japan had a baby boom. By the 70s, that boom fueled a soaring economy. Children born in the ruins of Imperial Japan became wealthy, urban professionals. From poverty to prosperity, health and wealth. And that's the moment it hit. Right after reaching its peak, the birth rate dips silently, far below the replacement rate. And no one really notices.
This map is not right.
Those baby boomers were still around. The population was still high by Japanese standards, but over decades, that changed. Unlike in other countries where immigration could keep the population afloat, in Japan, you could see the collapse with your own eyes. Schools closed, marriage rates fell, and adult diapers started outselling diapers meant for babies.
Outsell those for babies.
It's visible in Japan, but it happens everywhere. Wealth, then collapse. There's no question. Once a country gets wealthy, its birth rate falls. With the exception of Israel, this is true of every single developed country on Earth. And if wealth is the trigger, we're in no position to stop it. Prosperity isn't a project we're about to give up on. Poverty is bad. Wealth is good. And
everyone can make it to the healthy, wealthy corner.
But it means that this collapse is coming.
It's not true, right? Yo, poverty is not bad, right? And wealth is not good, right? It's not how this works, right? If this was how that worked, then like we'd be having this conversation, right? As a general thing, you know what I mean, about like how great everything is all the time. And apparently we're not. Wealth is not good. I'm not even really sure what this is. I'll be honest, bro. Listen, my man is so weird looking. Like, just fucking, does he have titties? Like, what is good with him? Like, he has to have like some type of strange disability. Like, he looks like a premature baby. Like, I don't know. I don't, bro. Listen, we're gonna let that go for the moment. Let that go for the moment. Okay, let it go. Let it go. All right, look. You know, this mentality, right, of thinking that wealth is all that matters in the end of the day, or like wealth is a positive thing for everybody, is not true, right? Technology restriction is actually one of the core tenets of like having a healthy society, right? Restricting technology allows for like people to be able to have employment, people to be able to like stand here and have like healthy relationships. The Amish don't have cars, and it's not because like the Amish, you know what I mean, don't like technology, because they have technology that they use. The problem is like if you have a car, you might live like 20 minutes or, you know what I mean, a drive away from your neighbor. But if you don't have a car, then you're only going to live 5 or 10 minutes away from your neighbor. It keeps the community together. That's the point. Wealth isn't always a good thing. This is something that we don't have these conversations about. Freedom isn't always a good thing. It's an American, that's probably hard to hear for y'all. Let's keep going though.
2, for the global population, for humans everywhere. Okay, before we go any further, you might be wondering why any of this is a problem. Surely fewer people on Earth would be a good thing. Less resource strain, climate reversal, more to go around, abundance. And yes, the benefits of a smaller population are real, but it's not the destination, it's the road to getting there. A smaller population, great. A shrinking population, not so great. Before any benefits, things will have to get worse, a lot worse, for the economy and for the environment. This is a map of GDP per capita, and this is a map of carbon emissions per capita. Without exception, when countries get rich, the people inside them want more stuff. And just like the birth rate falls when the countries enter the healthy, wealthy quadrant, their CO2 emissions skyrocket. Long term, it might balance out. CO2 emissions go up, the population plummets, the country nets a lower CO2. But timing is everything. Unlike small collapses of the past, disease,
I think we're going to
famine,
skip this part
war,
because I literally
this
don't fucking care.
is crucial. This is important to understand. We're used to baby booms, but booms can only be so large. The population can only grow so fast. A woman can only have so many kids. All that is out the window when it comes to population collapse. There is no limit to how fast a population can shrink. And that's when this ratio between the young working generation and the old retired generation can get seriously out of whack. The baby boom across many countries represented the sharpest rise in population in modern history. When that generation ended, for every 100 grandparents, there were about 120 of these young baby boomers. That sudden growth shook the economy. But it was nothing in comparison to what happens when a population shrinks. In Korea, where the birth rate has fallen the farthest, experts predict that by 2050, for every 100 Korean grandparents, the country will have just 13 grandchildren. That top heaviness is something we've never seen before, and something like it is expected to hit every country on Earth. So yes, one day a small population could mean sustainable prosperity, more food.
Well, this problem really comes down to, at the end of the day, that like the elderly can't have freedom, right? Like the elderly have to be people who are like serving the fucking future generations as a whole, like the younger people. So the purpose is that what you want to do is you want to have these people stand here and actually be forced by culture, by law, by rules, right, to like fucking bring up the next generations and give a shit about what happens to them, right? And they have to be held accountable when like these generations are failing, That's something that we don't know how to deal with, right? And that's what we're suffering through right now, is that these baby boomers have left all of us fucked with no culture and no survival skills, because they didn't want to be fucking parents in the first fucking place. Number one, most of them. And number two, they thought they were the end all be all of everything that has ever happened. Now, I blame this on lead poisoning, right? Other people blame this on just, just being shitty humans or wealth or whatever the case is. It doesn't matter, right? The point is, they did have the world by the ass on a downhill pull for the past 100 years, right? Everything was easy for them. Everything was easy. They had no suffering. And in doing so, we have lost all of the things that we're going to need to be able to survive. And they're trying to die and take everything they have built with them and everything our fucking ancestors have built with them. And they're going to flood our countries with fucking migrants in order to keep wages cheap so they can have fucking cheap fucking care and cheap goods and have things delivered to their homes. It's fucking awful what they're doing. They fucking climbed the ladder, got to the fucking top of the fucking pyramid, and then just ran off. Kicked the fucking ladder out from underneath to everybody to fuck off. They kicked the ladder out and they said, fuck you. It's a fucking tragedy. It really is a fucking tragedy what they did. Let's keep it a bean.
Food per hungry mouth. But in the meantime, getting there, the collapse, will mean far more mouths and far fewer people, workers, to feed them. There's also the economic problems that come with population decline itself. Most economists will tell you much of the current wealth in the developed world was fueled by a century of this post-war population growth. A growing population meant that every year, companies had a growing customer base and a growing supply of workers. We've existed in a world where growth was built in, but if the population shrinks, that reverses. In a shrinking world, even successful companies will have to lose customers every year.
What up, Josh? Nice to see you out here. And Jacob,
like that, even
Johnny
the
boy.
idea of a stock market where people bet on a company growing becomes impossible. Again, even successful companies will inevitably shrink. And while most economic busts are short, this depression could last for a century. Okay, before we get to potential solutions, I want to address two solutions that might have already come to mind. The first is immigration. If you're in the English-speaking world and you look outside, there's still lots of people. In Canada, for example, where the birth rate has already fallen, immigration policy specifically focuses on working-age people to fill out the young working-age population and balance out the boomers that are leaving the workforce. Immigration is vital to most developed countries for this very function. Canada's birth rate is falling, but its population is still growing. Remember, economically, a falling population can be devastating. Immigration, in the short term, fixes that problem. But it can't fix it forever. Right now, Canada's biggest immigration sources are India and China. But guess what? Both of those countries' birth rates just dip below the replacement rate. Soon, they'll be shrinking.
China's been shrinking since 2001. Number one, China's birth rate is well below replacement. China don't have any fucking people to let go of at this point. India, are they really people in the end of the day? Are they like actually like people? I feel like they're not people. I don't know why we're saying they're people. They're not people. I mean, can we like, can we cause a tsunami and like wash that country away? They need a bath. Like, let's keep it a bean.
They'll be in the same boat. China and India might try to source immigrants from Africa, the only big region on Earth that's still growing, but it's just a matter of time before the same thing happens there. Africa will get wealthier. Their birth rates will drop too. When it comes to the economics,
their birth rates are already dropping, right? Where it used to be 5 and 6, now it's now 2 and 3, right? It's already dropping, and it'll be below replacement by the end of the century. I mean, as you know, that might be too late for a place like Nigeria, but honestly, God, just cut off the food, and like they'll no longer be able to be okay anymore.
Immigration can help for the moment, but it's only hitting snooze. The second solution that might have sprung to mind is the potential for this whole thing to self-correct. Right? If wealth leads to population decline and population decline leads to less wealth, then wouldn't that low wealth lead population to rise again? Yes, that's what some experts predict, that there's this self-correction that could happen. But that self-correction,
I mean, it doesn't, right? Like, listen, so if you look historically, right, at places like Rome and Sparta and like Babylon, the populations never went back up, right? You know what I mean? Until like they hit industrialization, and then they went back down again, right? Like this is the problem. This is how Rome fell. This is how Sparta fell. This is how Babylon fell. And everybody goes, well, there's lots of things that make Rome fall. I fucking agree, right? But one of the main things is when you start off with 500,000 Roman citizens and end up with like 50,000 400 years later, that's a bit of a fucking problem. Sparta, when you start off with 10,000 and you end up with like 1,100, that's a bit of a problem when the Helots, you know what I mean, we're still fucking creating people. You know what I mean? That's an issue. This is something that we don't have these conversations about, and we probably should have conversations about. We're probably not going to have conversations about, because like these guys are not going to ever accept that they can't be urbanites, because I promise you this guy is on 18 different types of medication. And by the way, that look is strange, dog. That's a fucking strange look, homie. Keep it 100 with you.
isn't one that we should welcome. In fact, it's a possibility that we should be terrified of. This is probably the most important part to understand about this whole thing. Birth rates don't fall because of wealth directly. They fall because of the things that come with wealth. Things like political stability and women's rights. And so if we're predicting that a drop in wealth might trigger the population to increase again, then let's understand exactly what we're predicting there. That would mean that as countries become poorer from this, they return to a state of being unstable and dangerous, maybe even more.
I mean, Nepal's dangerous because of the fact that, like, they decided to go all organic with their food, and then the crops fucking didn't come in. That's a bit of an issue. You know what I'm saying? You can't go from using Monsanto to not using Monsanto in a year. You kind of got to, like, wean yourself off of that a little bit, because crop yields are going to drop, and then, like, people are going to be hungry, and it's going to cause political instability. Right? That's... I get it. You don't have nuance with any of these things, right? You just want to show, like, some stuff, you know what I mean, on the screen and go, ooh, look, dangerous, ooh, fucking unstable, right? But, like, as you get poorer, and then, like, I understand, like, where you're going, you don't want women's rights to go away, but it's not about women's rights going away. It's about women's place going away. Right? The idea that women should be men is dumb. The idea that we should all be free to be whatever we want is also dumb. Right? All these things are dumb. These are stupid ideas that were come up with by guys, you know what I'm saying, who were like merchants back in the day, who were like super upper class, rich sons and daughters of nobility. Right? And they wanted to be able to travel wherever they wanted. And the thing is you think that everybody should live like them, which is fucking stupid, because there's only one king. Pareto principle, son. Like, freedoms cannot be universal. They have to be, like, at the level at which you are capable of handling such freedoms. You can't just give, right, parents freedom from their children. because that means they'll treat their children badly, and the children will have a bad start. Hence, the millennials and Gen Zers, right? Where we're all like, we're fucked because, like, our parents said, we're not going to leave you anything because it'll spoil you, right? Because they're fucking dumb, because they're not thinking on a multi-generational level, because they didn't fucking raise us. They let the schools do it because, like, the government has allowed them to do so, right? Because, like, fucking wealth. Because they said, hey, listen, we had a good time and it wasn't hard for us, so it shouldn't be hard for you. Which, again, we get back to fucking freedom cannot be universal, right? It has to be something that you earn, right? And they didn't earn that fucking right. They were just born. Let's keep going.
More disturbing, it would mean that as our economy backslides and starts looking more like it looked before the great booms of the 20th century, the role of women would backslide along with it. It's a horrifying prospect, and one that we can only hope never plays out.
And let me throw you a bone here, right? Like, the 1950s was terrible for females, okay? And I'm going to tell you why, right? Like, we all have these conversations about, like, you know, the 1950s being, like, amazing, and the man was able to go earn a living, and the woman could stay home and raise the kids. The big fucking problem was that the woman didn't have any fucking role, right? It wasn't the fact that, like, she was a slave. It was the fact that she was a fucking prisoner, right? Because slaves are fucking okay, because at least they have something to fucking do. She didn't have anything to fucking do. Because not only did she have, like, a vacuum and a refrigerator and a washer and a dryer, a refrigerator and a car and a grocery store and all the stuff, right? But, like, she also had, like, all the free time to do nothing. And that's torture. That's what we do to prisoners, right? Where it's like, listen, we're going to meet all your basic needs, but, like, you can't do anything. And that shit, for most humans, is fucking awful. Now, I mean, like, there's a certain group of us who it's not so bad for. Like, you know, we can kind of deal a little bit. I like reading and working out and feeling better. A lot of guys come out of jail, better situation when they went in, right? They're all yoked and shit, and, you know what I mean, well-read, and they're playing chess, right? But, like, most females come out of jail in a fucking way worse position than when the fuck they went in. Being a prisoner is terrible, right? The problem is like, you know, they didn't have shit to do. They had no place. And going to work, right, you know what I mean, wasn't really a good fucking option, right, just as an in general thing, you know what I mean, because work fucking sucks. We all know that now. We're starting to realize that. And we're rather pissed off. Goddamn Tyler Durden, son.
If we're going to find a solution and avoid this collapse, it's worthwhile digging into both of those things. Stability and women's rights, the two strongest connections between rising wealth and plummeting population.
For the liberty of the people, by the...
Okay, listen, very simple. Humans are transactional, just like every other animal on the fucking planet, okay? I don't give a fuck whether you're a goddamn fucking frog, whether you're a fucking trout, whether you're a goddamn fucking koala bear, whether you're a fucking, like, fucking kangaroo, whether you're a motherfucking, like a fucking hyena, or whether you're a wolf. It doesn't matter. The relationships are transactional between animals. All right, between one generation and the next, and the males and the females. Everybody has a fucking role, and they all help each other. They complement each other as an general fucking thing, okay? Children are not helpful in a city. There is nothing that a child does in a city because they're not allowed to fucking work, right? They are just burdens. You are raising economic units for the fucking government. I know this sounds terrible. Kids on a farm help farm. On, like, an old farm, not on a new farm. On a new farm, kids on a farm are worthless because, like, automated tractors and such. When you get to a certain point where, like, you know, you have like fucking 80 fucking Mexicans working on that fucking farm to do whatever, that child's still not helpful because you can't make 80 fucking kids to replace those Mexicans. Amish have small farms. They're like 5 and 10 acres, right? Those smaller farms are places where kids are useful. See how this works? See how this operates? Because those kids are therefore useful. The kids go and help family businesses. They work at 8, 9, 10 years old on regular jobs with the parents. They are useful to the family. They contribute. They help. There's a transaction there. There is no transaction with a kid in the city. It's just life. And they're not luxury items because they're fucking expensive and offer no benefit other than fucking posting it on Facebook. Look at my baby. And most people don't even want to do that anymore because, like, oh, listen, you never know who's plotting against you. You never know what type of fuck shit people be on. Because that's what you did with the news. You told everybody that every neighbor's a fucking pedophile. And like, yo, now every fucking person on the right wing in this entire, well, every centrist in the fucking country, not even a right winger, every centrist in the country runs around screaming about pedos all day. By the way, listen, the pedo thing is not a right wing thing. That is a centrist thing. It is regular, normie human beings who spent their lives watching CSI Miami and motherfucking NY fucking CPD, whatever fucking bullshit that they watch. Because I don't watch that bullshit, that SVU garbage, right? Legit. I know. Tom Pease, bro, listen. Why are you saying these things? Because it's the fucking truth, dog. It's the fucking truth. Yo, get on my Substack. Now I'm saying, be on my motherfucking Substack, son. Legit. Hold up. We're about to, let me motherfucking go to my motherfucking Substack and shit. Right? I'm gonna put my motherfucking link for my Substack in the goddamn chat. Right? So you motherfuckers can stand here and like fucking, you know what I mean? Here, listen. Here. Bruh. Here. There you go, buddy. Here. Listen. Get on my fucking Substack, son. I break all this shit down on a regular basis. Know what I'm saying? Fucking get on my Substack.
As a general rule, wealthy, developed countries are more stable. By contrast, the developing world is often unstable. Illness, child mortality, war. These are real threats. With constant uncertainty about the world around you, having more kids, even if it means less investment in each one, is a good strategy. It increases the odds that at least some will thrive. But in stable, wealthy countries, that uncertainty is gone. If you do everything right, your child should have a good outcome. In a country like that, putting all of your energy into just 1 or 2 kids makes a lot more sense. If we scale that up, the instability of World War II is part of what fueled the baby boom. But by the same logic, stability is what leads to this. But okay, if a country's stability is what's driving population down...
It's not true. It's urbanization that drives the population down. It's not stability. It's urbanization. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. It's fucking nonsensical gibberish. By the way, like, listen, like, fucking, if Germany wasn't goddamn stable because, like, it was split into, like, the Soviet half and the Western half, like, the fuck is he goddamn talking about?
It isn't much help. Like we said, we're not about to make life in the West dangerous and unstable with the hope that it'll bring birth rates back up. But the same is also true for the other driver of population decline. What some experts think is the main factor that leads this to happen. For birth rates to fall as a country gets wealthy. In the early 2000s, people buzzed with enthusiasm about global development. About countries making this remarkable yet treacherous journey from poor and sick to healthy and wealthy. Malala Yousafzai was shot by the Taliban. In the years that followed, she became an icon. She came to represent the importance of the struggle of women in the developing world.
On women's rights and girls' education.
Yeah, listen, I have no idea who the fuck this bitch is. Does anybody know who the fuck this bitch is? Let me know in the chat.
A powerful idea started emerging.
The cure for poverty really is the empowerment of women.
Consistently, international aid projects proved the idea was right. Educate girls, provide access to birth control, a country gets richer. But importantly, the opposite is also true. Wealth leads to more rights for women. After World War II, the American economy took off.
The automobile factories are...
All right, see, here's the thing, got it fucked up. Safety creates more rights for women, right? As your country becomes more safe, you give more rights to women, right? So, like, once your country's super duper safe, like, for instance, in 2018, Saudi Arabia was the safest country in the world. Crazy stat line. It's true, though, right? Here's the thing. Then they gave women the right to drive, and it stopped being so fucking safe. Yo, listen.
The U.S. in decades became incredibly wealthy. And then, right on cue, women flooded into universities and the workplace. The economy thrived. Equality in large...
And listen, women went in the universities and into like fucking the workforce in the 1970s. That was the big point of this, right? And the reason is because inflation, right? It's because, like, literally because of the amount of baby boomers, right? The job market was flooded, so like 2 people had to work inside of like a home in order to survive. It didn't happen because like the fucking country was more fucking wealthy.
Part prevailed. But it was also the dawn of what feminists termed the work-family conflict. The years devoted to schooling and careers led women to delay starting families. And that delay meant that women, on average, had fewer childbearing years remaining. And families shrank. We can work on resolving this work-family conflict, but just like we won't make countries more unstable to boost birth rates, in some ways we're in the same spot here. Wealth, stability, women's equality, these are the greatest accomplishments of the developed world.
I mean, I feel like it's not, right? I feel like the greatest accomplishments of like the Western world are like, you know, I mean, the Hoover Dam or like the Panama Canal or, you know, like all like the amazing engineering feats that we did, right? You know, that would, you know, maybe like the Cathedral of Notre Dame, like it was, you know, the Roman architecture, you know, I mean, depending on who you call the West, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of really good accomplishments that we made, right? That are like really, penicillin's fucking great, right? But like wealth, stability, and women's equality shouldn't even be on the fucking list. It's a terrible fucking thing that we did. It's a fucking dumb idea.
This is what's so hard about this issue. It puts us at odds with our very best achievements. Even with civilizational collapse on the line, these things aren't negotiable. But now that we've talked about the biggest drivers of population collapse, that incidentally are things that can't budge, let's talk about one smaller driver that might offer a solution. Back in Japan, another big shift happened after the war. People moved to cities. In the countryside, kids were basically your retirement plan. They could work on a family farm or haul in the catch on a fishery. They could take care of you when you got old. And land was abundant. There was space for a big family. But after the war, Japanese cities became some of the most crowded places on Earth. Wealth grew. Most things got cheaper. But housing costs skyrocketed.
I'm excited to show you my tiny little home. It's 8 square meters.
Plus, urban jobs weren't the kind to be passed down. They were the type that needed an expensive university degree. In the countryside, everyone was poor, but kids were cheap. In cities, everyone was comparatively rich.
Japan was catching up.
But kids were pricey, and so families shrank. It's worth mentioning that this explanation for why populations shrink has flaws. For one, if it's all about housing being too expensive, we'd expect the super rich would still be having lots of kids.
I mean, it's not about housing being expensive, right? So that's not what the fuck it is, dummy. right? It's about the transaction between fucking children and adults, right? Like, if the children have no fucking use to the adults, right, then, like, to the fucking parents, then why the fuck would you have them, right? You literally said, like, kids are your fucking retirement plan. It's a transaction. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that the fucking houses are too goddamn expensive. I mean, some of it is that. 100% some of it is that, right? Like, if we still had $500 a month fucking places, listen, we'd have way more people. Let's keep it a bean, right? We'd have more people. That 100% would happen for, like, the lower middle class. This wouldn't happen for the upper middle class.
But they don't. In fact, they have fewer. But still, broadly, this is true. In a country with higher housing costs, fewer babies. And if you accept the premise that with time, all countries will develop,
One can make it to the healthy, wealthy corner.
and developed countries have low birth rates,
Birth rate is the lowest in the
the
world.
collapse is inevitable. All we're really talking about is stopgaps, ways to slow the fall. And housing could be one of them. Unlike the improved stability in wealthy countries or the progress in women's rights, the rising cost of housing is one driver that we should want to reverse. This is where there might be a bit of good news. The trend is on our side. I live in a city where two things are true. Housing is massively unaffordable, and there are houses and condos being built everywhere. As I wander around this city and contemplate what the next 100
Yeah, but as they add in, you know what I mean, like, more and more fucking people, you know what I mean, the worse this shit fucking gets, right? You know, it's supply and demand. For some reason, like, and your paycheck's not going up. So the cost of housing keeps going up, right? We have to have a massive overhaul of, like, the real estate market and the rules of, like, investing in fucking real estate in order for any of this to be fixed. Okay, so we're going to move over to this entire video from the Hoover Institution. This is Nicholas Eberstadt. I want to have a conversation with this guy, right? So everybody needs to tag him with this fucking video, please. Do me a favor and, like, yo, everybody that sees this bitch, tag this motherfucker on Twitter or X or fucking wherever the fuck you can find him, right? And tell him to come talk to me, right? Send him this video, please.
For Nicholas Eberstadt on Uncommon Knowledge now. Welcome to Uncommon Knowledge. I'm Peter Robinson. A fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Nicholas Eberstadt earned both his bachelor's degree and a doctorate in political economy from Harvard. His books include the 2016 bestseller, Men Without Work, America's Invisible Crisis. In recent years, Dr. Eberstadt has devoted himself to studying demographics, in particular to global depopulation. Our text today, Dr. Eberstadt's recent article in Foreign Affairs magazine, The Age of Depopulation. Nick, welcome back to Uncommon Knowledge.
Thank you for inviting me back, Peter.
All right. The depopulation bomb. Nick Eberstadt in Foreign Affairs, quote, "Humans are about to enter a new era of history. For the first time since the Black Death in the 1300s, the planetary population will decline." We'll take this continent by continent in just a moment, as you do in your article, but give us an overview. How has the population behaved over these last 7 centuries since the bubonic plague, and what's happening?
Right. Well, since we last met our intrepid heroes in the 14th century, the world's population has probably increased by something like a factor of 20. Not regularly, but very, very steadily. The reason for this is because human beings tend to procreate, and they tend to procreate at slightly higher birth rates than their death rate levels. And that means gradual and indeed exponential population growth over time. What's happening now is new and I dare say completely different. In the past, when human numbers declined, it was usually as a result of a calamity, say the plague, wars, other sorts of pestilence, upheaval, natural disasters. This time it's different.
This is absolutely not true, right? And I mean, like 100%, this is not true. Okay, so okay, here we go. All right, Sparta, citizen population. Spartiates declined dramatically from an estimated 20,000 to 35,000 around 500 BC to fewer than 1,000 by mid-4th century BC. While the total population, including Helots and Persia, was much larger, the severe decrease in citizen class, a result of frequent warfare, low birth rates, and wealth inequality, critically weakened Sparta's military and political power. This was not because, like, yo, fucking, of the warfare. It's because, again, low birth rates, right? How about this one? Here we go, right? Just under 7 million, right? And then it fucking lost. Right, hang on, wait. See here, hang on a minute. Roman citizens over time in Rome. Decrease of about 137,000 citizens, right? 4 million, right? Had fallen to over 1 million. And then went down to low tens of thousands a century later. They got sacked. But yeah, it was down to nearly 1 million by 400 AD, right? And this was not like the result of whatever. This is a result of like them not having like a fucking higher birth rate. Right, it's because women just didn't have any fucking kids. This is the problem with this attitude, this ideology, right? You need to study history properly. Like, I don't know why it is these demographers are saying these things. It doesn't make any sense.
Global health is higher than it's ever been before. It's continuing to increase with a few very small footnotes that are exceptions around the world, but not enough to affect the overall totals or trends. What's happening now is that we are marching towards below replacement fertility, towards a global pattern of childbearing which will be insufficient to sustain global population. And that is entirely new.
All right. I just have to, you just said it. You just said it very well. But it is so striking, possibly because I'm a boomer and grew up with the notion that we were suffering overpopulation. I've called this segment the depopulation bomb after Paul Ehrlich's famous book of the late 60s. I think it was a 68 book called The Population Bomb that predicted such population growth that by the mid-70s, he was wrong, of course, but by the mid-70s, there would be mass starvations. Now, what he was wrong about, I always thought, conservatives always thought, was that he missed human intelligence. He missed our capacity to grow. Not that he was wrong about the population. The population would grow, but resources would grow even faster. Okay. But this is not that argument. This argument is that he was wrong about the numbers. Population is going to shrink as we boomers depart from this world, not continue to grow. I'm just asking you to repeat it so I'm sure I've got it.
We are on a long-term march, seemingly unstoppable, to planetary below replacement fertility.
All right.
It is possible we already have reached that threshold. It'll take us a couple of years because we have to look in the rearview mirror till the statistics catch up with us.
I don't know if anybody ever heard this before. Right, hang on. Let me, hang on, man. Hang on a second. I'm gonna show y'all something, right? Because this is some wild shit, right? Is this a joint? This might be the joint.
There are houses, but no one lives there, and there are roads, but no one walks on them. This is the largest uninhabited village in Chaoshan. It is said that more than 600 households were living here at the time, but they all suddenly moved away overnight. The once bustling village is now left with only empty houses and deserted streets. Many homes have long collapsed, and the surrounding areas are overgrown with weeds and vines. The once bustling village will never return. Do you know what caused the villagers to move away?
Hang on, there was a lady who did a video recently. I don't know where, like, listen, I'm pretty sure she's like, not AI, but like she's a, whatchamacallit? China. China population. Back up the side. Come on, man. Listen. Oh, here we go. Here. Yeah, listen.
We know
For those that ain't seen it, this is great.
Economic challenges, right? Weak consumer confidence, falling real estate prices, high debt, industrial overcapacity, sluggish exports, and so on and so forth. But the underlying issue of the faltering economy, in my opinion, is a severe population crisis. China's actual population is far below than the official figure of 1.4 billion. I was never able to quantify it until today. So with help of AI, ChatGPT, I discovered that China's population may be overstated by 37 to 50%. Let me explain my methodology. It's very simple. I want to compare China and India's population between the 30-year period from 1990 to 2020. Let's also compare their average fertility rate between the two countries and their median age. So these are the numbers. So I show you the population between the two countries. These are all, by the way, all official numbers. And you could see that in 1990, China's population.
All right, so here's the problem, bro. All right. The issue comes down to, it's not about whether or not, you know what I mean, like somebody has a business about what the birth rate is. It's when the government made promises to people to pay for things long term. They used future generations as leverage to be able to pay for these debts, right? And when they did this, right, they assumed that the population would keep growing. And if it doesn't, then you have a fucking problem, right? So that means you have to tax the individuals who are already here or indebt them more or bring in immigrants to fucking like pay more taxes. This is the issue. And so the parasite grows anywhere it fucking stacks up if we have less people. That's the reason why this is really fucking important. All right, Josh? That's why.
Population is over India's by about 270 million. And 30 years later, China's population is still over India by 30. However, if you look at the fertility rate, India's average fertility rate during the 30 years is so much higher than China's, almost 3. That means every woman on average has 3 children in India. That's average during the 30 years. And in China, the average is 1.7. Both countries have seen median age increase over the years. In 1990, both countries were young countries. I mean, the average age was 20 and 24. But in 30 years, China has grown much older, right? The increase in median age is 15 years, whereas India only increased 9 years. So when you look at these numbers, you wouldn't think that there's a problem, but mathematically, we know there's a problem. With that kind of fertility rate in India, consistently over 30 years, India's population should be larger than China's. Mathematically, it's impossible that China's population is still greater than India. So intuitively, I know there's something wrong. This comparison is wrong. Mathematically, it's impossible. With the help of AI, I embarked on my journey. I decided to do the math. And since I don't have time to build a model, I asked GPT to help me. I first asked AI to confirm China and India's population in 1990. This is what it gave me. And then I asked the AI to confirm China and India's fertility rate for the past 30 years. And this is China's fertility rate broken down by the decade. I color-coded them so that red is China and green is India. So you see, China's fertility rate was 2.3 in 1990, and it decreased to 1.7, 1.5, and then by 2020, it's 1.3. Now, these are the official numbers. There's an expert on Chinese demographic research. His name is Yi Fuxian, and he is a scientist at the University of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I was thinking the same shit. Something
wrong.
wrong?
The real fertility rate in China from the year 2000 has been 1.1, and not 1.5 or 1.7. So, but for the time being, just assume, let's use the official data. Let's assume it's 1.7 because I want to use all official number. And the India's fertility rates, as you've seen, also declined, but it's still relatively high. It was 4.0 and it's now 2.2. So if you calculate the average fertility rate, India's average for the past 30 years, its fertility rate is 2.97, almost 3, and China's is 1.7. So then I asked GPT to apply the fertility rates for each country and give me the total population in 2020 for India and China respectively. And this is the results it generated. So 2020 population, India's population was 1.38 billion. China was only 890 million. And I compare them to the official or the announced population, and we've got a problem. So this is the official population, right? And China's official population is 1.4 billion.
All right, so everybody see that shit? Right? Everybody see that shit? If I can listen, let's back this up real quick. Just real quick a second. All right, I'm fucking clicking on the goddamn OBS joint. Let's back this up real quick. You know what I mean? Just so everybody can remember exactly what's going on here. Right? Real numbers. Real numbers. 890 million people is where fucking China's probably at. It might actually be worse than that, though. We're going to keep watching this video. Right? You know what I mean? Because something wrong with this shit. Right? Let's keep it a bean. Something wrong. It's still too low.
Did a comparison. So here's the comparison. This is the problem. So we have the official population compared to Lay's calculated population. India, the data is within 4% margin of error. So the discrepancy.
Okay, so Joshua, buddy. All right, listen, man. You know I love you. All right, you are my retarded genius. Okay, I got a lot of love for you, dog. So I'm gonna correct you, right? Because like I want you, you know what I mean, to understand what I understand. It's very important. When you have a shrinking population, that means a shrinking economic base. That means that less things are being bought. It also means less things are being produced. So that means the value of companies go down. So everybody who's relying on like a 401k for like, you know what I mean, retirement. Everybody that's relying on these things for jobs. It's a lot, dog. It's a lot, dog. Okay? They're all going to lose money. And in losing money, it's an issue. Because they're already locked into loans. I get the fact that you can lose your home and then buy one that's cheaper, right? But what happens when they keep getting cheaper? And the money keeps going down. Right? It keeps going down, dog. You can't sell your home anymore. Your assets ain't worth anything. Like the guy over there was a guy I just read an article on. He got like a $5,000 a week or a month thing for life. Publishers Clearinghouse. Then they went bankrupt. He was relying on that money the rest of his life. You know, he took loans out against it. Now the company's bankrupt. This is what happens. Things get complicated really quickly, my brother. Right? This is why we're having these conversations. Because there's a lot of shit built on this fucking premise of the embedded growth obligation, the ego. We can't get the fuck away from it. Capitalism has to be fed. This is the it's not crony, it's not the cronies, it's not the rich. It's the average person that'll suffer. The guy who did everything right in life who's gonna suffer from this the most. All of us savages out here, us. You know us, man. You know me. I'll be good. I'm gonna do better. My kids will do better. But they won't. And their kids won't. There's a lot of people thought that all this was gonna continue forever. Thought this system was proper. Thought it was set up right. Thought these motherfuckers knew what they were doing. What happens, dog? What happens when the masses have to suffer the consequences? Let's keep going.
Discrepancy is 50 million. But in China, it's the other way around. The official number is 520 million higher than my estimated number, and it's 37%. China's real population, according to this calculation, this model, based on the official fertility rate and based on the official population of 1990, should be 890 million, not the 1.41 billion. So what's going on? I then asked ChatGPT, I say, why is there such a huge discrepancy for China's population? And the AI replied, well, it could be because we used a set of simplified assumptions. The AI said, fertility rates alone don't fully capture population growth. And it says our calculation only accounted for fertility rates and didn't factor in important variables such as mortality rate and life expectancy. Okay, so my intuition tells me there's no way that 500, China has 500 million more people because everyone lives longer. So I want to quantify the impact on population due to improved life expectancy. So I asked AI, I said, what's the life expectancy change for China in 30 years? Well, the answer I got was it increased from 68 years old to 78 years old. So an increase of 10 years. I asked the same question for India. It increased from 58.6 to 70.2. There's an increase of almost 12 years. I then asked AI, can you quantify the increase in life expectancy in China and India? And how does that increase contribute to population increase over the 30 years? It says 10-year life expectancy increase in China contributed to 42 million increase in population in China and 47 million increase in India. So the increase in life expectancy only accounted for 42 million of the 520 million discrepancy. It's very small. It's not enough to explain the discrepancy, right? India, which experienced a bigger jump in life expectancy, right, because it's almost 12 years as opposed to 10 years, didn't have a bigger discrepancy. So why would, if life expectancy change is the reason to cause increased population, why would that only be a problem for China but not India? From there, I conclude that life expectancy is a very minor variable in the scheme of things in China. So then AI gave me another reason. It says migration. I just asked AI, I said, do you really think 500 million Chinese, which is more than the total population of the United States and also more than the total population of EU, migrated to other countries during the past 30 years? Or the other way around, 500 million people from other parts of the world migrated to China? AI said no, right? it agreed with me that migration is not an issue. It should not contribute to 500 million people discrepancy. Then it gave me a third explanation. It says population momentum. And this is what it exactly said. It said, even with low fertility rates in recent decades, China's large population in the 1990s has a building momentum due to the prior high fertility rates. This means that even though the fertility rate dropped significantly, the population continued to grow for a time as older.
You know, I agree with you. We don't need any more fucking Indians. And listen, I like the Chinese better than the Japanese and the Koreans. Keeping it a beam with you, right? But I think this shit's fucking hilarious. Right? You know what I mean? Just as a thing, right? I think this shit is fucking hilarious as fuck. And why do I like a Chinese better? Because General Tso's chicken is great, right? But you know what else? Like, I don't have to deal with goddamn Chinese motherfucking anime and like fucking rock singers running around like bothering me on a regular basis and like fucking with my children. Okay? Like the Koreans and the fucking Japanese do, right? I'm sick of their nonsense.
Larger generations aged but didn't immediately shrink due to low birth rates. Our model didn't account for this momentum. If that were the case, well, why India, which also has a large population with building momentum, which also experienced decline in fertility rate, didn't have this problem? And then the AI started to repeat itself by saying nonsense.
Yo, Joshua dog, listen, all right. I know you're the retarded genius, far be it for me to question your motherfucking genius, right, as a whole. But I'm going to argue with you on this one. We have capitalism. Capitalism requires expansion, right? It does, right? It's a growth model. It's made for, like, colonial expansion. It's what capitalism is made for. Like the idea that like capitalism is just like somebody owning the means of production is fucking dumb. Capitalism is the commodification of land, labor, and fucking currency. And in order to do this, right, you have to have new land, new labor, and, you know what I mean, like new currency constantly. Now, when that stops being a thing, capitalism has to start expanding into other things. One of the things it found a really good, you know what I mean, thing to expand in was fucking humans, right? It started expanding into like actual like fucking human relationships and communities and families, right? And it's been eating us. Like, you know, that phone that's in your hand or your laptop, your computer, your TV, your keyboard, whatever it is, all your time, right? Like what I'm doing right now, right? Capitalism started eating us as an in general thing. Commodified, like even just your sense of attention. There has to be rules on what can and cannot be sold. Freedom's dumb. You have to have culture. You have to have rules. You have to have codes. We all have here. Right? All of us here, we have a code as men. Every one of us. That's why you're here. That's why everybody's here, right? That's why y'all here for me. That's why y'all respect me. Because we got codes. You know, we keep to these fucking codes. You have to have codes among men. Capitalism doesn't care. It'll sell porn to your fucking kids. That's capitalism, dog. Just how it works. It'll sell drugs to your fucking children. It'll sell poison to your wife. It'll poison your relationship so that you'll buy more good things on credit. High value added items made of cheap plastic. Reality, bro. Just keep going.
And I told it to stop. I told it to stop defending the Chinese government unnecessarily. And it would make it not credible. And then the AI finally said that I was right, suspecting that the Chinese population data is wrong or is overstated. And it says, "Thank you for holding me accountable. Moving forward, I will ensure to maintain clarity, transparency."
Nah, my brother. Nah, that's not how this works. All right? Your children got to be able to walk to school without walking in front of a vending machine selling poison. Right? It should be things that are fucking off limits. Number one. Number two, it's not socialism shipping it off to China. Do you want to watch like the beginnings of capitalism video? I mean, like, listen, we can do that too, dog. I'm down. Right? And I mean, so I can explain this to you, Joshua, since you're here. You interested, bro? Like, yo, you want to watch the beginning of capitalism video? You know what I mean? Yo, let me know in the chat. I mean, tell me that, Joshua. Like, listen, because, like, I'm down, dog. Like, I'll show you what's up. You know what I mean? You want to watch it? Because, like, I'll show it to you. I'm 100% down, dog. Hold up. Ain't on me, bro. Ain't on me. Here we go. Let's have this conversation, dog.
Lovely. Very nice. How are you doing?
Oh, me?
Yeah,
no, I'm all right.
Let's go around everyone individually and find out how we are. It'll take too long. That's crazy. Welcome. Really nice to see you again, George. We talked before lockdown, and now it's post lockdown. We're going to be talking about your book, The Invisible Doctrine, which you wrote with Peter Hutchinson, and it's also a film, right, as well as a book. The
Madeira.
Yeah.
It's very specific. Land, labour and money. Commerce has been happening for thousands of years, but is to defeat democracy. That's what it's there for. There have been two very handy tools used by neoliberalism. One is fascism, used by capitalism. One is fascism, one is neoliberalism. But to understand it and to get behind it, we really need to understand, first of all, what capitalism is.
Yeah.
And you can get into endless rows with people about, I'm pro-capitalism, I'm anti-capitalism, without anyone actually defining what they mean by this thing.
Yeah.
And there's this generalized assumption that capitalism, well, is buying and selling stuff, and it's having people working for you, and it's having property and stuff. But a lot of that comes under the aegis of commerce.
Yeah.
And things like that have been happening. Commerce has been happening for thousands of years. But Peter and I see capitalism as a distinct economic system which arose about 600 years ago. And following the work of the great geographer Jason Moore, who applies Karl Polanyi's definition that capitalism involves the commodification of land, labour and money, he traces back the origins of capitalism to about 1450 on the island of Madeira.
Yeah.
It's very specific. And he says this arguably is the first place where land, labour and money were simultaneously commodified. So commodification means the stripping away of social and cultural and historical meaning. It means instrumentalizing that thing so that it has just one purpose, and that purpose is to make money for you. And Madeira was struck upon by the Portuguese in 1420. And they thought, oh God, there's an island covered in a whole load of trees. It's got lots and lots of Madeira, timber on it, wood. What are we going to call it? Tough one. You know, it's a classic imagination of the colonist. Oh, we'll call it Madeira. Yeah. So, and Portugal was very short of timber at the time. They'd used it all to build their ships to get to places like Madeira. They'd run out. And so they were delighted to stumble across this place, which was a rare example of a genuinely uninhabited land. There were no people living there. And so, to begin with, they did what they'd been doing at home. They cut down trees, they ran a few cattle and pigs on the land, and then someone realized this was a great place for growing sugar. And sugar was like gold in those days. It was so valuable. And it had the right climate, the right soil, and above all, it had loads of Madeira, because you need about 60 kilograms of wood to refine a kilogram of sugar in the boilers. Right. And so they thought, we could just do this. There's no one stopping us. There's no lord of the manor to say, you can't use this land. There's no commoners to say, we've got rights over this land. We can just do whatever the hell we want on this land. Oh, hang on a moment. We need labour. So where do we go? Do we go to local? Oh, there aren't any local people. We can't go there. Do we go to Portugal and buy some labour, or try to force some local lord to give up some of his serfs? No, we don't need to pay anyone. We can just go and grab labour from wherever it's grabbable. So they went to the Canary Islands and they grabbed people to use as slaves. And then when they ran out, they went to West Africa and grabbed more people to use as slaves. So pure commodification of labour alongside this commoditized land. And then they said, well, we had to finance this operation, so where do we go? Again, you'd normally go to your local money lender, your lord of the manor, the rest of it to get money. They'd charge extortionate rates of interest, but hey, we're on Madeira, we can go wherever the hell we want. So they went to Genoa, or they went to Flanders. And there were no social relations tied up with that money. It was just money for the use of money. And then when they brought these three elements together in what Jason Moore argues is a unique combination, hadn't been done before, extraordinary things happened. First of all, within about 30 years, Madeira became the world's primary source of sugar. Even though it's a tiny island in the Atlantic, it was just like, woof, this massive explosion in production. But then, almost overnight, the production collapsed. Within 10, 20 years, it lost 80% of productivity. And the reason for that was that Madeira ran out of easily accessible sources of Madeira. They had to go further, slaves had to go further and further to obtain wood for the boilers because they cut down all the forests. And so their productivity of labor collapsed. And so boom and bust, which turn out to be two intrinsic elements of capitalism. But then the third one was they looked around and said, well, this place is fucked. Wonder how that happened. Let's clear off and go and find another place.
Right.
Quit. So they went to San Tomé. And they did exactly the same to San Tomé, but even quicker. And they burnt through that. They literally burnt through it. And by this time, Columbus had cleared off across the Atlantic, said, oh, this place looks nice. And so they were then able, after they buggered up San Tomé, to go over to the coast of Brazil, where they worked their way up the coast of Brazil, enslaving the indigenous people, murdering them in vast numbers, felling the forests, exhausting the soil, and then moving on to the next place. Boom, bust, quit was what this new system did. Moved into the Caribbean, by which time the English had joined them, the Spanish, the Dutch, the French, people who were cottoning on to this new way of doing business. And capitalism is a firefront. It's an economic system founded on colonial looting, which constantly expands and consumes its own frontier. And it pushes that frontier further and further into our lives, ecologically, socially, of course, economically, politically, going ever further to grab more and more resources through violence and turns common resources into private property, which can then be traded. And so it then feeds back into commerce and eventually overtakes commerce. But capitalism can exist without commerce, and commerce can exist without capitalism.
Yeah. I mean, is there not... I mean, the world, I suppose, just seems so big that it didn't feel like they needed to plant some more trees, but wouldn't it just make sense to make half of Madeira some wood again and replant it?
Well, of course,
it's just the greed of moving on quickly.
Well, I mean, you're just always looking for the low-hanging fruit,
you
know, the most accessible resources. And as you exhaust those, you have to push the frontier ever further and further out.
Yeah.
So you have to go and drill for oil in the Arctic or in the deep ocean, or look for minerals in the deep ocean, and your fish populations ever further and further away. You're extracting less and less from more and more as you exhaust resources, and now they're looking at mining asteroids or other planets. And
I can see where it's going. As Elon Musk head for Mars, going, what can we take out of there? There's not many trees there, unfortunately, Elon, if we're going to try and do this. So neoliberalism is relatively new compared to capitalism. It's a sort of post-war invention.
So I mentioned before that capitalism for the past 150 years or so has had this problem, which is people voting. And when people vote, they have the temerity to ask for things like more wages and shorter working hours and not having their arms ripped off by machinery and having houses with roofs on and having breathable air and clean water and unadulterated food and stuff like this. And capitalism does not want to give this to people because that erodes the profit margin. And so capitalism has been trying to solve this problem of democracy ever since it reared its head. And it found a highly effective means of solving this in the form of fascism. It's not that capitalism invented fascism, but as it came along, it thought, oh, this is useful, this is great.
All right, Josh, do you understand, man? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is how, like, this shit works, right? You know what I mean? Like, what it is that you have this system that requires exponential growth, right? Like, forever. You know what I mean? Like, it cannot end. Like, you cannot, like, fucking stop growing, right? That's kind of the mentality. And, like, when you run out of shit to grow, when you run out of, like, fucking new resources, you have to go find new shit. And the new shit that they're finding is us. Yeah, and what you're talking about isn't capitalism, right? It's commerce, right? Commerce has been done forever, right? You know what I mean? That's why capitalism is new, right? You know, when you start talking about, like, capitalism didn't exist at least until, like, the Enlightenment. So what was done before that? Just commerce. Because there's always rules on it. There was cultures and people and kings and fucking whatever. Like, you had to pay to do business in, like, a new place, all these type of things. In capitalism, you don't have that. You get what I'm saying? Right. So it's this basic structure that means, like, hey, listen, you can operate wherever you want, however you want. But that isn't always a positive thing. And that's usually actually never a positive thing in the end of the day. Right? That's why you end up with, like, all these fucking Dollar Generals all over the fucking place putting little mom and pop shops out of business. Same as Walmart. Same shit, you know what I mean? Different fucking toilet.
All right. Asia. We'll go continent by continent very briefly. Nick Eberstadt. Again, this is from Foreign Affairs. In China, Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, by 2022, every population was shrinking. Again, to a boomer like me, the idea that China, we were raised with the notion that China was going to grow and grow. All of these countries are actually shrinking and have been for 3 years at least.
Yeah, it's really hard to wrap one's head around this. But the childbearing patterns in East Asia are about 50% below the level that would be needed for long-term population stability. We are flirting with a regional average of about 1 birth per woman per lifetime in East Asia. And in some places, like Taiwan, like South Korea, like large portions of enormous China, we're already well below 1 birth per woman per lifetime.
Help me with the math here. I'm tempted to say the math is as simple as this. Father, mother, 1 child. That means the overall population halves in each generation. Can that possibly be true?
That's about correct. For the region as a whole, unless something radical changes, we can expect the rising cohort of babies, of newborns, to be half as large as the parental cohort.
And now China, I'm staying with Asia for just a moment.
Yeah.
China had famously imposed a 1-child policy in 1979, but replaced it in 2016 with a 2-child policy.
Mm-hmm.
And all my Chinese friends in California tell me it's very easy to buy your way out of the 2-child policy. If you want 3 or 4,
sure,
there are fees you pay and bribe. You can have a big family, big-ish family in China if you want, but nobody does.
No. I mean, what's happened in China is really fascinating. After that catastrophic and cruel 1-child policy was not even suspended, but after the quota was adjusted, the overlords in Beijing thought that they were going to be able to tweak the size of the herd, kind of the way that a rancher would with a flock. But the pigs in Animal Farm, or whatever the analogy is, didn't go along with it. There's exactly the opposite happened. The total number of births dropped by about half. And what I think we see in that particular case is a massive vote of no confidence in the Xi Jinping dictatorship.
All right. India, once again.
Listen, that's some wild ass shit to say. All right, I'll be honest with you. I mean, considering the fact that Taiwan has like 0.2 kids per fucking woman, or Singapore, or any other places, you're legit like, that, are functionally like, great places to live. Like Singapore is one of the best places in the world to live. And they really do take care of their fucking people. It's not about the fact that like, they're not having kids because, oh, we don't believe in the government. They're not having kids because they're fucking urbanized. Right? It's because China took all the women, right? Like off of the fucking farms and moved them 2 provinces away into like fucking Shenzhen and, shoved them into fucking iPhone factories. Right? But my freedoms, women's rights and feminism. Like, this is nonsense, man. Like, stop doing the propaganda thing. It's unnecessary.
And Nick Eberstadt, sub-replacement fertility prevails in India. In India, where urban fertility rates have dropped markedly in the vast metropolis of Kolkata, officials reported that in 2021, the fertility rate was down an amazing 1 birth per woman, lower than in any major city in Germany or Italy. Even India.
It's very hard to wrap our heads around this one, Peter. I mean, I first visited Kolkata when it was called Calcutta in 1975. It was teeming with children. I mean, the fertility level was probably around 5 births per woman, now 1 birth per woman. This has happened in
your lifetime.
In one guy's lifetime. That's happened.
And you're not that old, Nick.
Well, thank you for saying that, but it's happened really fast in any sort of historical measure of time.
Europe. Nick Eberstadt. For half a century, Europe's overall fertility rates have been continuously sub-replacement. Half a century. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia has witnessed 17 million more deaths than births. The 27 countries of the European Union reported just under 3.7 million births in 2023, down from 6.8 million in 1964. Last year, France tallied fewer births than it did in 1806, the year Napoleon won the Battle of Jena.
Yeah, I just wanted to put this out here, right? Urbanization rate of India. Look at this. Right? See this? See how this works? Right? As the urban population goes up, right, as that line thickens, right, less children you have. That's how this operates, buddy. You know what I'm saying? Right. A lot of human beings living in fucking cities, right? 461 million people are living in cities. Just wanted to put that out there, so everybody understand what's going
on. We think of Europe as the center of Western civilization. We boomers still think of it that way. What's going on?
Well, we now have East Asia and all of Europe, including Russia, as net mortality zones in our global population. More deaths than births now.
Joshua, I'm 100% down for talking about assessing all the land and listen, I have literally an entire shit wrote up on that. I'm pretty sure, right? Or I don't think it was. I think I made a fucking video on that. To be honest with you, I made a whole ass video about that. Right? Hang on, bro. Give me a second. Let me go to. Where is my channel at? Hang on, man. See if I can find this real quick. Content. Search across your channel. Hang on, man. Let me see. I know I made a video about this. I just don't know how long ago it was. Let's go next. General. Trucking collapsing. 19th century problems in the 21st century. I feel like joining liberalism, a peer leader, smacking a European. Hang on, let's see if I can find this fucking video. American cities are not made for humans. This might be it. Hang on. Let me see here.
Like just as, like it's difficult to walk places in America, and if you do, like like I walk, like a lot of places I go around here because I have like I'm not gonna say a grocery store, but like a bodega, I guess, that has fresh fruit and vegetables and meat, and like it has like fucking stop you and ask you what you're doing, and people will call the police on you because you're walking. This is people can walk to. How long have we been talking about this, General? Like,
I mean, for a minute, right? But it's just
like,
it's
we've
so
been talking
obnoxious.
about this for like 2 years, me and you, right? Personally, right? We've been talking about this shit, with like other people where it's like, the suburbs are fucking cancer, and the reason why they're cancer is because of the fact that like they literally are just a fucking place to store your shit, right? They're a fucking they're like a pasteurized version of a fucking village. Because there is no shops, there's no fucking food being produced, there's no meat, right? There's no fucking, there's nothing, there's no fucking items being sold. It's literally just housing, right? And that's the fucking problem is some of it needs, like it needs to be a town. It needs to be a village. It shouldn't just be, homes.
All right, so I've been doing some thinking about some stuff, right? And actually, over the past few months, we've been thinking about stuff. And I was having a conversation the other day that kind of like, I explained something to somebody, and it made everything kind of make more sense to me. You ever like explain something and you go, holy shit, that's why the fuck these motherfuckers say this shit, right? So I think I found an easier way to argue for monarchy, right? It's the argument of, aren't you tired of like every 4 years having to worry about how badly you'll be molested by the next like government that comes in? Right? That's some basic ass shit, right? That's some like really simple things to understand as a whole, right? Some very, very simple shit to comprehend. Aren't you tired of this constantly dealing with this nonsense all the fucking time? Right? So there's two choices. Either A, you elect a king, right, which you can elect for life, and you no longer have to worry about how badly you'll be molested because you have a king, but it'll be unaccountable, which is the issue, right? And that's a trade-off right there. Is either you have a king who's unaccountable, or we can go to a sectional system, which I think might be a better option. I don't know who said it, but there was a dude who said, he said, all people are better ruled by those, who are like them. And in this country, we have two types of people, the cosmopolitan individuals and the regular humans who actually do jobs. It's somewheres and the anywheres, right? And the anywheres have been gaining in numbers in the past, I don't know, fucking 40 years since college has become ubiquitous, right? So I was thinking about it, right, as a whole. I was just thinking about it. We were sitting there thinking about, like, how do we make a system where you can basically have two separate governments, right? Because like my answer, has always been like balkanization, which, everybody's like, I don't want to do all this. So I'm gonna give you all a secondary option, right? Here's your secondary option. This is a sectional system. And I'll break this down for you to make you explain it really simple. On the right-hand side, these are city-states, okay? These here, New York, Chicago, LA, I don't know, fucking San Francisco, Atlanta, fucking, I don't know, Dallas, Austin, Massachusetts, Boston, right, Richmond, whatever, Philadelphia, whatever, right? These are your city-states over here, right? These are where, the anywheres. This is going to basically remain the same as it is right now. They get to keep the same government, okay? And their government is the government of, like the USG, the unaccountable bureaucratic system, right? And then over here, what you have is, like all the people who do like normal jobs and just regular human beings who want to live and be unmolested and have children and, you know what I mean, just have a normal life, right, as a whole. Here's how this works. So out of these groups, you're always going to produce aristocrats, right? So you need a place, right, for the upper class, smarter, you know what I mean, just people who, in general, used to will be what would feel like the priest class, right? Or, you know what I'm saying, like the nobles, these individuals in your society, right? And then, you know what I mean, what you do is you have, each of these has like a certain number of these towns or these normal groups of people who will end up, you know what I mean, being part of, or end up being like responsible by like these people here. These people will be responsible for whatever group, right? And then this block here, yo, what up, and welcome back to Pnoid News. Man, listen, so I was sitting here having a conversation with some guys last night. I've been running into more and more of these Russian Orthodox individuals, right? And these, you know what I mean, Christ cells have been popping up all over the place. And I'll be honest with you, okay? I'm not a fan, all right? I'm not a fan, right? Like, you people and your nonsense, right, don't understand exactly what this is, okay? So what you're looking for, all right, is something that doesn't exist anymore. It's something that your forefathers and ancestors traded away. It's called a culture, right? And your culture came from your geography, your area, where you lived, who you were, right? It came from the land. It came from your way of life, your family, your ancestors, your history, their ancestors, their history, right? It came from so many things, building into something that became a proper culture that held everybody in line. Now, how cultures work is that like you stand here and you end up, you know what I mean, like having a farm, right? And then like, you pass that farm on to like your next farm, right? And in passing that down to like your next of kin, as far as stuff's concerned, what ends up happening is that you end up having these people, right, who long term will have like a vested interest in your community, right? The best way to like be able to explain like how culture works is that like if you live on the plains, you're going to have a much more stoic culture because you live on a farm, right? If you live in the mountains, you'll be much more persnickety and like kind of ducked off. If you live near the ocean, you're gonna be much more, open to trade and things of this nature because people are going to be stopping by and you're going to be fishing. You're going to run into other people, right? You're going to have to be kind of more open to new foods and new ways of life and new ways of doing things, right? That's how cultures work. Right. And your cultures come first. Best way to explain it is a harvest culture or a harvest festival. So everybody around the world don't give a fuck where you are, right? Like you will have a harvest festival somewhere, right? You'll have something for when all your crops come in for the year and you will celebrate that, right? Whether it be rice, whether it be wheat, whether it be cucumbers, whether it be pumpkins, whether it be tomatoes, strawberries, watermelons, cantaloupes, oranges, pigs, cows, whatever. Right, whatever it is that you people farm in that area that that you do heavily, that you have a staple of, you are going to celebrate when that happens. And then what happens is like religion comes by, and religion ends up, stamping it and stamping your festivals and your culture and your heritage and all the things that you like, your rituals, and turns them into long-term things, right? So basically, it codifies all of your like basic culture, right? And that's why you have Christianity on different levels in different places, right? You know what I'm saying? So, you have a tarantulism in like fucking, Eastern Italy, right? You have you have like Dia de Muertos and, like Mexico, right? You have like these crazy, insane ass, like paganistic celebrations up inside of Norway and Sweden, right? And then, like you have like, hoedowns and things of this nature and, the Midwest and the United States and in Texas, right? You have different types of things depending on where you are and how your like culture actually works, right? Your geography, right? How your geography dictates how your culture works. Well, the thing is that you people are reaching for the religion, but what you want is that culture back, right? And if you want that culture back, I have a way of being able to give that to you. You may not like it though, it's also going to solve a lot of our problems inside of our country. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this is a map of all the welfare recipients in the United States, right? There are 22 million households in the U.S. that are on like the food stamp program, okay? My suggestion, right, and actually let's do this one first, right? Let's do this one right here, right? This is government welfare spending. It's, like $600 billion a year, okay? But also you got to add in, some of this healthcare, because of the fact that like your healthcare is also a product of like really shitty ass living. And I have ways to solve both of these things, right? Take all the welfare recipients, give them 2 acres of land, okay? A double wide mobile home, seeds, tiller, a solar array, a well, and chickens and a pig each, right? And what you do is you tell these single moms, for the most part, it's what they're going to be. You tell them you might want to get a man, you're probably going to need the help. You say you're not going to pay any taxes and you cannot sell this. Grow food. You have 1 year. When that year is up, and we're going to supply you with food for a year, right? When that year's up, we're hoping that you have this up and running. And when it's all said and done, you have fully formed fucking communities of 250 to 300 people, right, each with 2 acres that are growing food hydroponically, raised beds, all these type of things. We'll teach them, educate them, all this stuff, right? And you'll end up having families that make sense and end up having like long-term durabilities and proper cultures and being able to actually have the things that you want. On top of this, in the cities, you end up getting rid of the UBI-ridden fucking shitholes we call ghettos in America, right? And you give these people the opportunity to actually become self-sufficient. What's this going to cost? Total for setup, $2.55 trillion. This is a breakdown of it. So 22 million households, that's 44 million acres at $220 billion for the land. That's $5,000 an acre, right? This is for farmland. So we're not going and buying metropolitan or cosmopolitan, or like, metro land, right? 66 million chicks, that's $66 million on chickens, right? 66 million chicks, that's 3 chickens each for 22 million people, right? That's $330 million for chickens. $1.1 billion on pigs, $46.2 billion for solar panels, $72 billion in solar batteries, $1.73 billion for tillers, $33 billion for wells. Now, here's the thing. You can see this however the fuck it is you want to be able to see it. You can see this as we're giving reparations. You can see this as like, we're fucking standing here like getting people off the welfare doles and making individuals self-sufficient. You can see this as we're building like a class of individuals who are going to be able to have proper military families, right? And kids who are raised properly. We're going to get rid of a lot of healthcare problems. We're going to destroy a lot of the goddamn fucking goy slop that's coming out of these fucking factory fucking farms. Right. On top of that, the amount of human beings who are going to end up getting a fucking raise as farmers are going to be massive because a bunch of their land is going to end up disappearing. Right. Currently in the United States, right, there's 280 billion fucking acres or 280 million acres of farmland. We're talking about taking 44 million acres of it. Basic. This is land. This is a lot. This is a big fucking undertaking. This is a massive project. But, and this is a big but, in the end of the day, this will end up getting rid of entirely your fucking welfare program and people who have been living in your cities being absolutely unproductive and causing massive amounts of crime and who have a very, very shitty culture. You're going to get rid of the ghetto culture. You're going to get rid of like the shitty Scotch-Irish nonsense. You will get rid of a lot of this fucking terrible ass diabetes-ridden human beings. You'll end up forming proper families. You'll end up having generational wealth get fucking built. You'll end up having people with a actual background in, like really knowing what they're doing. You can take kids and put them in the metro when they have too high of an IQ. And if you want to, you can actually start turning these into actual real nations of human beings and having separate autonomous states. There's a lot of possibilities with this. There's so much stuff. This is not a welfare program. This is a investment in the future of our country. By the way, they'll also create children when we're at a deficit. I think this is kind of brilliant. And I think we can have this conversation properly. I think it's a good way to go. See, listen, I got solutions. Nobody else has solutions. Everybody else just bitches about shit. I offer solutions. Most of y'all don't like the solutions, but at least I fucking offer them. I go, hey, listen, let's think outside of the box and do the math on how much things would cost to actually fix shit. Right? And create something that's positive.
And that gap looks only to be increasing as far as a demographer's eye can see.
Latin America, you write that birth rates are down throughout Latin America and the Caribbean, and indeed in North Africa and the Middle East. To quote you once again, Iran has been a sub-replacement society for about a quarter century, and in Turkey, Istanbul's 2023 birth rate was just 1.2 babies per woman, lower than Berlin's. Now, so if I understand you correctly, across the entire globe, there are only two exceptions to this trend of shrinking, one major exception and one minor exception, and we'll save the minor exception because it's the United States. The major exception is sub-Saharan Africa.
Sure.
Explain the degree to which it is an exception, and then if you can, why.
Sure. Every continent on Earth, except for Africa, is now already below replacement.
Replacement is 2.1 ordinarily.
Roughly 2.1.
All right.
Every continent but Africa is exhibiting childbearing patterns that are inadequate to provide for long-term population stability. They're going to increase for a little while on population momentum, but that jet can't fly. I mean, they're all on course for depopulation, absent compensating immigration, with the exception for now of sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa is still 75%, or sub-Saharan Africa is about 100% above replacement. Africa as a whole, if we add in North Africa, maybe 75% above replacement. But birth rates are declining basically everywhere in the world with tiny exceptions. And
yo, listen, I'm gonna keep, again, we get back to like, yo, the Amish have 6 kids per woman, right? 6 kids per fucking woman. There's a solution to this. I don't know why we have such a hard time. Is it just because you all want to live in a city? Is that it? Is it because everybody wants to live in a fucking city? Is that the only reason we have a fucking big problem with these things? There's no way, right, that like that can be the only reason why it is that we're ignoring this fucking answer.
the level of fertility in sub-Saharan Africa is about 35% lower than it was in the 70s or 80s. There are already places in sub-Sahara which are at replacement, about to go below replacement, like South Africa, off of the coast of sub-Saharan Africa and places like Mauritius, well below replacement already. I mean, stick around.
So my impression, again, you know this, I'm just asking questions. I seem to remember reading somewhere that the two, in some ways, most economically hopeful countries in sub-Saharan Africa are Nigeria and Kenya. They seem to have their economies sorted out enough to be growing. How are the birth rates in both of those places?
Nigeria is a bit of a mystery because its population numbers have been shambolic for a couple of generations. They fought a civil war over cheating on their 1963 census in the Biafran War. Kenya is a lot clearer. And Kenya's birth levels are coming down very rapidly. They're not at replacement yet, but they're coming down very rapidly.
All right, so this brings us to the minor exception, the United States of America. Quote, Nick Eberstadt, the United States remains the main outlier among developed countries. I must say that brings a little from to my patriotic heart. I like being an outlier among developed countries, resisting the trend of depopulation. But even in the United States, depopulation is no longer unthinkable. Explain.
What makes the United States demographically exceptional for affluent democracy is its unusually high birth levels and its embrace of immigration. Those two things. For the last 15 years, the United States has dropped below replacement childbearing. We're now actually 20+% below the replacement level.
For the first time in our history.
Well, I mean, we had this happen briefly in the 70s. There was a dip in the
Not even in the 30s during the Depression?
No, we were still for the 30s. We were still barely above replacement. There were a couple of years that you could find it charting down, but this is a long period. This past decade and a half, we kind of have a new pattern. Our birth levels are higher than for Europe, or needless to say, for East Asia or other places, but not enough to maintain long-term population stability. On our current trajectory, we will get to be a net mortality country within a decade. This is where the immigration comes in. Immigration has added to our ranks since the very founding of our republic, of course. And it is set to continue to do so, although nobody can guess exactly what flows of immigration are going to look like. But at this stage, the Census Bureau is now guessing that the U.S. population, immigration included, is going to peak within the next generation and a half.
All right. Why? What's happening? Nick Eberstadt again. It is generally believed that economic growth and material progress account for the world's slide into population decline.
Again, it's urbanization. Right? It's that simple. It's fucking urbanization. Right? This is not even that fucking difficult, right? You know what I mean? Fucking. Oh my. Shit. Right, 80%, 2020. Right, 83.3%, 2023. Urbanization, right, as a whole, you know what I mean, is literally like the fucking birth rate of like it's the rate in the United States. The more people live in cities, right, and it's no different when you're talking. And by the way, we don't have a difference between suburbs and fucking like actual cities, right? We don't really have a separation between the two. And it's probably proper because like suburbs are basically just like housing units for fucking cities, right? There's no such thing as like actual urban fucking populations. Like there's no such thing as like village populations because suburbs don't have mixed use. You know what I'm saying? Like just is what it is. You know what I mean? Let's keep going.
Stop there. Why are not children viewed as luxury goods? Why don't we have more children the richer we are? You and I love kids. You and I both had a slew of them. I think we would agree that that is the most satisfying part of our lives, and we would therefore suspect that anybody would find it satisfying. The idea that the richer you get, the fewer children you have, strikes me as counterintuitive, or at least worth explaining right there from the get-go.
Well, Hoover's late, great Nobel economics laureate Gary Becker kind of nailed it back in the early 1960s. Said, all other things being equal, the more money you have, the more everything you want, including kids. But at higher levels of income and higher levels of education, your tastes may change. You may have preferences for other things. You may assume that kids means college and graduate school and all sorts of expenses that you wouldn't assume were yours at a more modest income level.
Listen, it's not fucking true, right? Just as in a general thing, it's not fucking true. So in 1900, 50% of the population was urban and 50% of the population was rural. Which meant 50% of the population worked on fucking farms. And so they always had lots of kids. That would always be like fucking farmhands. You know what I mean? That's, you know, and that like held over, right? That attitude of like, yeah, we'll have lots of fucking kids held over. And in particular, with a lot of the immigration flows that came in with, you know what I mean, like from 1890 until like the 1940s-ish, right? Before they shut down immigration all completely, right? After World War II, they brought in, all the people they had brought in were all farmers. It was the Irish, right? And the Italians and like fucking, I'm trying to think here. Oh, shit, who the hell else was it? Irish, Italians, and I want to say like, and the Mexicans, right, who came in during that period, and even the Indians. All of them were farmers, right? And so they all had lots and lots of kids, to the point where like literally like the Italian population in the United States was like 18% of the fucking US population, right? Again, the Irish, same type of thing. They were like 10 or 12% of the population, right? So this accounted for a lot of the births that came in. But after that, right, just after that, the fucking baby boomer said, yeah, listen, we don't want to have kids because, like, you know, we want to be able to, you know what I mean, like, stand here and, like, live our fucking lives. And the kids don't have any purpose to us. They never fucking lived on a farm. And the ones that didn't want to go back to it. Like, my dad grew up, you know, farming and working construction. He fucking hates it. Like, he despises it. I asked him, like, let's go fishing. Let's go out in the woods. Let's hang out with the grandkids. He's like, I fucking hate kids, and I don't want to fucking be in the goddamn woods. Right? This is the typical baby boomer. You know what I mean?
Or modest educational level. So what we see is a huge change in mentality for more affluent people. And that change in mentality, I think, is the real explanation for why richer people don't always have more kids.
All right. You write, again, I'm quoting you. All I'm going to do is quote you to yourself here, Nick. The most powerful fertility predictor ever detected, not how rich an economy is, but what women want. There is an almost one-to-one correspondence around the world between national fertility levels and the number of babies women say they want to have. I presume that there are surveys of this kind conducted all over the place all the time. Okay, so here's the next question. Does this suggest that that women have always wanted fewer children? That throughout all of history they found children just trouble, and that suddenly...
The answer is yes. The answer is unequivocally yes. Dudes are the ones who wanted the kids. We're the ones who love the fucking children and think they're adorable, you know what I mean? And like, love the idea of a legacy and all that type of shit. Women just want to participate in the legacy that dudes create. Cultures that dudes create. This is some shit that like we're having a hard time grasping. We're having a hard time understanding. But we need to.
The availability of the pill and other forms of birth control permit them to limit their families as they have always wished they could do? Or have women changed their minds about children? All this strikes me as a deep, deep puzzle. Am I wrong? Am I missing something?
You're totally right. It's a almost unfathomably deep puzzle. And I think in this same piece, I made an observation that the person who explains it deserves a Nobel, but they don't deserve a Nobel in economics. They deserve a Nobel in literature, because you have to understand the intimate complexities of the human heart, the profound changes in zeitgeist, the differences in mores that have...
When am I getting my Nobel Prize, bro? When can I get my Nobel Prize? Can I get my Nobel Prize, dog? Like, listen, somebody needs to fucking put my name in for the Nobel Prize. Like, real shit. Why do I not, like, yo, listen, fucking bullshit, like real shit. It's fucking nonsense, and I'm locked out of these awards.
Unfolded over time, those variations. We have to remember that we are the world's singular and most adaptable animal. I mean, that's why Paul Ehrlich got it so badly wrong. If we were all insects, he was a professor of population biology, studied insects.
Right.
And if we were insects, we would have had a very bad time after the 1960s. But we not only adapted our circumstances, we not only came up with adaptations that would allow us to prosper with greater numbers, we also changed our life expectancies, we changed our family formations, we changed our desire for children.
Nick Eberstadt, what is happening might be best explained by the field of mimetic theory. And now you're in trouble because you are required to explain what mimetic theory is and how it might explain what's taking place.
Well, back slightly after the Stone Age, when I was in college, what was really in vogue was this concept of sociobiology. E.O. Wilson and others.
Also an insect man.
Also an insect man. And very plausible argument, seemingly incontrovertible, was that we as creatures bound by our DNA had built-in habits and built-in approaches to living arrangements, social arrangements, and other things. But now that we see poor countries in the world, very poor countries in the world, places like Myanmar, like Burma, where women seem to be voluntarily choosing to have fewer children that would be required to replace their cohorts. It doesn't look as if we have a built-in mechanism, a built-in thermostat.
We're not hardwired.
Yeah, we're not.
This is the prototypical, like, fucking boomers don't understand women and men in general don't understand women, right? As a whole, women are self-interested creatures. They are extremely transactional. I was watching a video the other day where, like, somebody said, you need to stop getting mad. Like, people need to stop being mad at women for doing, like, exactly what women are supposed to do, right? Which is, like, properly, like, trading, you know what I mean, their vaginas and their body and, like, their lives for, like, you know, stability, right? That's what they're doing. That's what marriage is. Marriage is a fucking transaction. It's not love. It's not about love. It's never been about love, right? It's always been about a resource fucking trade. It's a resource transaction between men and women. That's literally the whole fucking purpose of marriage. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Dudes get access to having a legacy and children and vagina, right? Women get food and fucking shelter. Long term. That's literally the entire fucking trade, right? And then families, you know, hop in there with, like, the social status, all these type of things, blah, 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 right? That's literally it. Women were never interested in having children. Women prefer not to have kids. It's a painful process. It's dangerous for them. Always has been dangerous for them. Like, fuck just dying. You know what I mean? There's tons of injuries that happen, right? Back problems, titty problems, motherfucking, you know, uterine problems, like fucking C-section scars, fucking all this shit. Like, it's all types of things that end up happening to lose a whole bunch of weight afterwards. Just all this shit, diabetes and everything, like, that leads up to, like, having a baby for a woman, right? It's dangerous. It's not a safe process for them. So they don't want to have fucking kids. They want to have kids with the right dude. That's more of a biologically ingrained thing. That's about the dude, right? That's about that top end guy. It's about like that animal instinct when it kicks in. Let's keep it a bean. Let's keep it all the way 100. Most dudes don't hit that fucking little instinct that the females have. Again, that's about that top 1% of men. Why the fuck you think it is that you got 16 female ancestors for every 1 male? Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep going.
Hardwired to replace ourselves. It doesn't look like that. It looks much more as if mimetic theory, whose I guess great proponent was again Stanford's Rene Girard,
my across the street neighbor.
Wow, how cool is that? May be able to explain a lot more of what we're doing. To oversimplify mimetic theory, it's social imitation. That people are affected by what they see, and what they want is affected by what they see. And that there's an enormous amount of social learning, complex social learning in the arrangements that we live in. My favorite expert, the great Mary Eberstadt, uses mimetic theory in this way. She describes what she calls a cat stuck in a tree problem. And her point is that anytime that the fire department comes out to help the little kitty get down, that is a cat that was not raised around other cats. That was a house pet because it never learned from other cats how to do this. And just in the same way that Kitty didn't learn how to get out of the tree, people who are not exposed to the social imitation and learning that would come with large families, going to find it very hard to regain that. So I'm trained to think as an economist that people's desires change. They're kind of exogenous. They go, desire for kids goes up, goes down. People will adjust accordingly. But it may be that it's very much harder to return to replacement fertility once you go far below that than we might expect.
So on my favorite as well, but you have a special reason for considering her your favorite because she is, of course, Mrs. Eberstadt. But on this notion that mimetic theory may explain it, it could be that having lots of kids is like the Latin language. Once its use is lost, once it no longer becomes current, it very quickly just disappears. So it's a kind of lost art, lost knowledge. Is there something to that?
I think there's something to that. I mean, even if we look around the world today without getting very fancy and scholarly, we can see that in a place like Israel, which is still, I think, the most fascinating exception to modernity with regard to fertility. Secular Jews in Israel report notably above replacement fertility, whereas, for example, secular Jews in the United States, way below.
Way below.
And so part of it is the context, part of it is the neighborhood where you live, part of it is
You're explaining something to me that puzzled me for a long time. I have an Israeli friend who told me that in his neighborhood, he has 5 children, the next street over, the next house is 6, the next house is 7, and then there's 4. And he said the women, the ladies, say to each other, 4 is the new 2. In other words, it's a kind of shared, that country is in some ways a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of neighborhood expectation. That's the mimetic?
That would be mimetic. I think that would be mimetic. Okay. And it cuts both ways.
Yes, it cuts both ways. All right. So can we buy our way out of this? The New York Times this past spring. The White House has been hearing out a chorus of ideas in recent weeks for persuading Americans to get married and have more children. One idea would give a $5,000 cash baby bonus to every American mother after delivery. Close quote. Hungary is famous for...
You need $300,000 to make that happen. Maybe $500,000. You want to really move the needle, like real shit, $500,000. That'll cover you for a house, property taxes, car, health insurance, diapers, clothes, food, furniture. 500 grand. That's a number you need. Maybe just a house, just as a whole. Just give a fucking house away. Why do we have such a problem with that? Like, real shit. Like, you know, as a people, I always wondered, why don't you just give veterans land and a house? It doesn't make any fucking sense that we don't, right? You know, we have a real big fucking problem with giving away fucking homes to people who deserve them in this fucking country. We have a fucking giant ass problem when it comes to that shit. I don't understand. Like, I don't fucking get it. Right? It's the weirdest fucking, like, thing. Where, like, giving away homes to people who, like, you know, we want to, like, you know, encourage to do something. It's just fucking missing completely from our society. Fucking wild. Because that's really what you need. We need stability. When people have kids, you need to make them stable. Chicks are stable in Section 8, fucking get pregnant all the goddamn time. Why? Stable. Government provide for you. Dude won't. Make dudes fucking stable. Another basic ass thing you could do. Make men stable. Wild ass shit.
Or giving tax cuts to families with more than a certain number of children. You've written about Mongolia, which gives an award to mothers, the Mongolian Star. Can we buy babies?
We can try, but I think we've got a century and more of experience with pronatal policy, and the results are very disappointing for people who think that we can buy our way out of below replacement fertility. The record is that baby bribes or baby bonuses are very expensive, and in terms of moving the demographic needle, they do very little. Well, what they can do sometimes is that they can create a little blip among people who kind of take the money and run, who are planning to have a second or a third child more or less anyhow. That's why some Swedish demographers talk about what they call the Swedish roller coaster. When a new pronatal program comes into effect, the birth level goes up a little bit, but then it goes back down after that, below where it was before the program started.
I see. They're buying babies forward, so to speak.
Exactly.
Well, the new geopolitics of this world that we are entering. From your article in Foreign Affairs, quote, humanity's shrinking ranks will inexorably alter the current global balance of power and strain the existing world order, close quote. Okay, let's talk through a couple of these coming strains. Europe and Africa, as you've noted, Europe is already hollowing out. By contrast, sub-Saharan Africa, to quote you, tomorrow's world will be much more African, but the outlook for human capital in sub-Saharan Africa remains disappointing. Just at the crudest level, over the next 25 years, aren't there going to be a lot of empty villages in Italy and Spain and France that look wonderfully appealing to people from Nigeria and Kenya and elsewhere in sub-Saharan Africa? That is to say,
you stop trying to replace my fucking people with Nigerians. You want fucking Nigerians in Europe, they go to goddamn fucking Britain and Sweden, all right, and Denmark, where they're fucking missing people any goddamn way. Replace your motherfuckers with them. Fucking don't you replace my fucking Mediterranean people. You motherfuckers are fucking goddamn wasp piece of shit.
Migration, Europe feels beset by migration to begin with. It hasn't seen anything yet.
There may be a lot more pressure for migration than we've seen so far.
Yo, listen, man. I'm gonna hang this up right here because, like, listen, I'm losing motherfucking audience and listen, you know what I mean? I kind of ran out of fucking steam. It is what it is. Look, I'm Tom Pease with Pnoid News. Y'all know the deal. Like, share,